Hello, welcome to my channel. This is a quick step-by-step guide on how to service a 1 litre Volkswagen Up. You will need a 1/4 or 1/2 inch wrench, a pesky 10mm socket if you can find one, a T20 torque screw, a 19mm socket, a long extension with a spark plug socket on the end, or as I like to call, a long boy, a jack stand, although it doesn't have to be this heavy duty, and an oil filter wrench, which I didn't have, but we'll get to that in a minute. There's a way around it. Here are all the service parts you'll need: an air filter, an oil filter, 3 spark plugs, and obviously some clean oil. Jump in the car, fire her up, and wait until the engine reaches temperature, about 5 to 10 minutes. Then switch it off. Reach down the passenger side and pop the bonnet latch. Release the bonnet or the hood from its latch and pop it on its stand. Use a jack stand to raise the car up so you have just enough clearance to get a hand underneath by the engine. Now, don't go sticking your head underneath there, not unless you're using axle stands. You're going to need an old container or something to drain the waste oil into. Find the sump plug underneath the engine and use your 19mm socket to unscrew it. Now, be careful, the oil may still be hot. Personally, I'd let your car cool down for around 5 minutes once you've switched it off. If you've ever been really ill before, then this might look familiar. Whilst the oil's draining, we'll crack on with the other servicing bits and come back to it later. Pop this small rubber hose off on the side of the airbox and then pull upwards and backwards on the airbox and it will pop off. These 1 litre engines are about the same size as my left testicle. I should probably get that checked out. Remove these clips to the coil packs. We are about to change the spark plugs. Use your trusty 10mm socket to undo the bolts for the coil packs and remove them. Remove the coil packs. They can be a little bit of a pain to get out, so just go gentle. Here we're removing the spark plugs using our spark plug socket and our long extension. I'd always recommend comparing your plugs and making sure the numbers on each one match up, just to be safe. Replace all 3 plugs, then tighten them up. Put the coil packs and the bolts back in and also tighten those up. Then just reconnect these electrical plugs. Use the Torx key to unscrew the bolts from the airbox. We're going to replace the filter in this now too. For safe measure, I just like to clean the dust out and give everything a quick wipey wipe. Then replace the filter and do all the bolts up evenly. The airbox sits on rubber grommets. It's not too hard to align up. If you've got this far, you'll be just fine. Don't forget to pop the little rubber hose back on. Now onto the oil filter, and boy oh boy did I mess this up. Here's what removing an oil filter with the correct wrench looks like, and here's mine. Oil filters are generally made up of a thin-walled metal with some mesh inside. I do not recommend doing it this way, but if you have to, needs must. I like to keep things clean and wipe everything down as I'm going. It is recommended to put a small layer of oil on the seal of the new filter. Then just screw on the new filter and tighten it by hand. Do not over tighten it or use an oil filter wrench. All of the old oil will now be drained out, so it's time to put the sump plug back in. All of the work under the car is now done, so it's time to remove the jack. All there is to do now is replace the oil and get it to the correct oil level. I like to put a rag down in case of any spillages. Most of these engines take around 3.4 litres of engine oil. Once I'd put in around 3 litres, I started using the dipstick to check for the correct amount of oil in the engine. It may take a few attempts of filling, wiping the dipstick and rechecking it just to get the oil level correct. Here you can see it's just perfect. Whilst working in the engine bay, it's a good idea to check the other fluids. I topped the engine coolant up with some deionized water. And I also topped the windscreen washer fluid up. And that's it, we're all done. We can get in the car, start it up, make sure there's no weird noises or weird lights, and we're good to go. It's always a good idea to double check your engine oil level after you've ran the engine for a short period, just in case. So that's how I service a Volkswagen Up. Hopefully you can do the same too and save yourself some money.